This video is going to introduce you to the free image and photo editing program called Paint.net. Paint.net will only work on a Windows PC. Sorry Mac users. Some of the cool things about Paint.net is that it works with layers like Photoshop, can do special effects, and comes standard with lots of powerful tools. Plus, there's an active and growing community that not only provides help when needed, but are constantly crafting new plugins that add even more functionality to this already cool tool. Oh, and did I mention it's free? So let's head on over to Paint.net, download and install the program. Now, before we download and install the program, I do want to point out a couple of things that you should bookmark or at least be aware of for future reference. And that is the forum that you can get to right here and the Paint.net blog, which is at blog.getpaint.net. Now, the forum is very active and the blog here keeps you up to date with what's happening and what is planned for future releases, like for example Paint.net 4.0, which is due out sometime early in 2014. Right now there is an alpha version that's available if you want to download it from right here. What you should do if you're interested in kicking the tires, just wait for the beta version, and that will be available inside the update portion of your installation. So let's go ahead and download our program and get it installed. Now, as confusing as it might seem, these are not the download buttons that you want. If you look closely, this is a download for something called Browser Safeguard, and this is a download for something called My PC Backup. Yeah, a little confusing. What you want is this little bitty thing up here in the top that says Get It Now, Free Download, Paint.net. Go ahead and click on that. And you can read some of this stuff down here, a little bit more about Paint.net, but we'll go ahead and choose this download. And like it says here, click on the link to the right. Okay, and at this point here, it does say that system requirements are Windows 8.1, Windows 8, Windows 7, XP, and Vista. And that's one thing too, is that when 4.0 comes out, it's no longer going to be supporting Windows XP or Vista. So time to upgrade. Anywho, let's go ahead and download this. Select the location where you want it to download to. Click on Save. Not a very big file, so it won't take very long. And I'm going to go ahead and open up that folder now. And this is our download right here. Go ahead and unzip this. I'm going to right click, and you can either use the default extract all, or I'm going to use my free version of 7-zip. Extract here, open up that folder, and then right click and run as administrator. And this probably isn't going to show up on the recording, but right now the monitor turned black and I've got a box right in here in the center of the screen that says, do you want to allow the following program to make changes to this computer? Go ahead and click on yes. And it's pretty straightforward installation. And sometimes there's some additional products that are installed by default, so I don't want that. And the way to find that out is to go with custom. So if there are any additional ones, it gives you the option to toggle them off. So go to custom, go to next, click on I agree. Of course, you want to read all this legal stuff here. And if you don't want it to be the default image editor, I already have one that I prefer as a default, so I'm going to untick that. Use it as a default image editor for TGA images. Untick that. Create shortcut to the desktop. I do want that. And automatically check for updates. And if you click this one here, and this is also going to check for pre-release or the beta versions, which, as I mentioned earlier, as soon as that beta version for 4.0 comes out, if you have that ticked, then you're going to be notified of it. Go ahead and click on next. That's fine. Click on next and next. And this will take a couple of minutes, but through the power of video editing, it won't take but just a couple of seconds. Paint.net was installed successfully. Click Finish to close the installation wizard. I'm going to go ahead and leave that box ticked, so it'll start it right up. Click on Finish. And there we go. Have these 4 boxes popping up. We've got our basic menu up here at the top, our work area or canvas area right here in the middle. And that's going to bring us to the end of this introduction to Paint.net. Thanks for watching and have a great day. This video will take you on a tour of the Paint.net work area. Now, after you've downloaded and installed your Paint.net program, go ahead and open it up, and when you do, you're going to see these 4 windows pop up in your work area along with the image canvas right here in the center. Now, along the top is the menu area. Whenever you click on a title, it's going to drop down more functions, like for example under File. This is where you can create a new canvas area. That's this white area right here. And you can do the same thing by clicking here. And this Open will allow you to open an existing image that you have on your computer somewhere. Likewise with this one here. And you also have these keyboard shortcuts that you can use to accomplish the same thing. Now, in addition to this, You can also open up a recent project you've been working on. You can acquire an image from a scanner or a camera, and this will close out the workspace here, not the program. To close out the program, come on down here and click on Exit under File. Then of course you've got your Save and your Save As. Now whenever you're saving a project, it's better to go ahead and save it as a PDN. That's Paint.net project file. That way, whenever you want to make edits to that particular project, in other words, with all the layers and everything intact, you'll be able to do so by simply opening up that .pdn file. Now, whenever you want to save it as a completed product, like a JPG or a PNG or a GIF file, then you would do that right here as well by clicking on Save As. Navigate to the location on your computer where you want to save the file to, and you've got the PNG or the PDN, again that's the Paint.net project file, or these other options here as well. Now if it has some type of a transparency that you're trying to preserve in your image, then you really just want to save it as a PNG. You can get away with a GIF, but I would suggest sticking with the PNG just for quality's sake. Now a lot of these items are pretty standard, but whenever you click on a particular item, the functions that are available will depend upon what you're working on at the time or what tool you're using. Now over here under the Windows tab, you can toggle on or off the different windows that are open. For example, the tools, that's this guy right here. You can toggle that on or off by selecting that or hitting the F5 key in this example. Likewise with the other three windows. Colors, that's this one here, or F8. Layers, that's this one here, or F7. Or history, F6, or just toggle that off. And you would want to do that if you want to maybe have a larger work area. You can move these outside of this work area, and this comes in pretty handy if you've got multiple monitors that you're working with. You can have your canvas area on one monitor and all of your toolboxes on your other monitor. Totally up to you. And of course, the more you work with Paint.net, the more of these shortcuts and tips and tricks you're going to figure out for yourself. And to help you further along that way, you've got this help section right here where you've got help topics. You can check out the Paint.net website. More importantly are the forum and the tutorials. Now these plugins are pretty cool. These simply add additional workable features to your Paint.net program. Now one of the major features in Paint.net is the ability to use and manipulate layers. This is where the layers window comes in, and you have even more options up here in the layers tab in the menu section. For example, you can add a new layer, you can delete a layer, you can duplicate a layer, merge a layer, same as down here. You also have the properties options down here and here. But up here, you can also import from a file, flip that layer horizontally or vertical, and rotate it or zoom it. These can add an additional wow factor to your image whenever you're able to manipulate those layers like that. Let me go ahead and add a layer, kind of demonstrate what I'm talking about. Let's choose the paintbrush and let's make it a little bit wider. And let's go with red for the color. Yeah, no, I'm not an artist. Now, in adding a layer to that, the top layer is the dominant layer. In other words, it's going to cover up everything here. So let's go ahead and for this entire layer, I want to make it blue. So you make sure that you select the layer that you want to work with. And in this case, I'm working on layer 3, and I just click anywhere in here, and it's going to cover it up. And this being the dominant layer, it's going to affect the layers below it. Let me demonstrate something else too. Under Properties, if we click on that, you've got this Opacity tab where you can let the bottom layers kind of bleed through depending upon the number that you have here in the opacity box. And under Layer Properties also is where you can name the layer. And I suggest that you get in the habit of, one, using a layer for every additional element that you add to your image, and two, that you name that layer as soon as possible, just to keep things organized, especially if you end up having 15 or 20 different layers here, some of which are maybe, say, 5 of those layers are arrows, but they're different color arrows, and they are pointing to different things. Well, be as descriptive as you want with the titles of those layers. Believe me, it's going to come in handy later on whenever you want to edit that arrow. You won't have to go down and start selecting each and every one of these layers just to figure out which one is pertaining to that particular arrow that you want to make an adjustment to. Let's go and toggle this off so I can get my pretty smiley face back. Now if I bring my history window back into play here, this will show you kind of the timeline of sorts of the work that's taking place in our canvas area. So if you want to come back to a point prior to putting the eyes in, then you can do that. or you just want the one eye, whatever. That's where the history comes in at. And you can make these larger or smaller. And before we close out this video, I want to point out down here in the status bar over here on the left, this gives you a description of what you're working with and what tool you're working on at the time. And a little bit over to the right gives you the dimensions of your working canvas area. And to the right of that in the corner, this tells you the location of your mouse. As you can see, as I move the mouse over the canvas area, how that number changes. Now, there's a ton more that you can do with this than what's covered in this video, and that's where some of these tutorials or the forums are going to come in handy for you. But hopefully this video has whetted your appetite to learn more about using this free and powerful image editor called Paint.net. Thanks for watching, and you have a great day. This video is going to show you just how easy it is to increase the functionality of Paint.net by adding plugins. Now, after you've downloaded and installed Paint.net, head on over to the Paint.net forum, which you can get to right here from the Get Paint.net page. Just click on that link. Scroll on down just a little bit until you come to Plugins Publishing Only. Just click on that. And you can check out the plugin index. It lists a ton of plugins, probably several hundred, but this is the guy here that we're going to be checking into. Go and click on Plugin Packs, and while there are several hundred, possibly even close to 1,000 different plugins, the ones that I'm going to be checking out and have already downloaded are the Drop Shadow and Other Effects, DP Wise Pack, and this one from psdplugin.codeplex.com. And this one allows Paint.net to not only open and edit PSD files or Photoshop PSD files, but also save as Photoshop PSD files, something that without this plugin, Paint.net is not able to do. It works in layers, but not Photoshop source files like the PSD file. Now, once you do insert this URL into your browser bar, it's going to start the downloading process. So you don't have to click on anything at all. What will happen is after a few seconds of you entering this into your browser bar, your Windows Explorer is going to pop open, and you simply from that point navigate to the location on your computer where you want to download this plugin. I suggest just downloading all these plugins to your desktop somewhere, and then once you get them installed properly, just delete them. So these are the plugins that I suggest you check out. By all means, check out any and all of them, but these will definitely get your feet wet in the plugin arena for Paint.net. So now then, we've got the plugins downloaded, we've got them saved to our computer, and before we install them, we want to make sure that our Paint.net program is closed. Now, I've got them here in this plugins directory, and what I suggest you do is once you unzip them, before you actually open them up, run them through your virus scanner. For example, I right-click and then click on Scan for Viruses. I use Kaspersky, but you should definitely have some type of antivirus program on your computer, and it should allow you to scan individual files. But that's just my 2 cents worth on keeping your computer clean. Once you get them downloaded, unpacked, and scanned, open them up, and depending upon the actual plugin itself, it may be going into one of 2 different directories in your Paint.net folder. Let me show you where that's at. Navigate to your Windows directory, or the C drive in my case. Open up the program files, not the x86, but the program files. Then look for Paint.net. Open that up. And here you're going to have the effects folder or the file types folder. Now, most of them that I messed with go in the effects folder. But as you'll soon see, some of these plugins have what's called like a README file that gives you further instructions inside of that zip file. Let's go ahead and check those out. So here we have the DPY plugins. And in this case, pretty simple. You just copy all these DLL files. And I'm just selecting them all, right-click, and then copy. And then if it doesn't say anything at all, go ahead and assume that it's going to go into the effects file. And don't sweat it if it's incorrectly placed. You'll get a notice whenever you try to open up Paint.net saying, this particular plugin was incorrectly installed. Now, before we install those, I'm going to go ahead and open up Paint.net and just show you that under Effects, this is where most of them are going to go. For example, under Blur, I think by default there's 7 options in here. Under Stylize, we've got 4. And I think under Distort, we've got like 8. And under Adjustment, we've got a few options in here. And some of those plugins will add to the adjustments, some will add to the effects, and some will add to some of these subcategories under Effects. And if we go to File and go to Open, and then navigate to a location of a PSD or a Photoshop PSD file, which by the way there's one right in here. As you can see right here, there is no option for PSD file, and we've got it set for all images. And there is a PSD file right here under desktop working, and it's not even picking it up. That's going to change here in just a second. Okay, so let's go ahead and close out our program. Let's come on back to our plugin, and let's copy these into my clipboard. Right click and copy. Come on back here into the effects directory of paint.net and just paste those in there. And that was a simple one. The PSD plugin, we'll open that up. This one, we've got a README file. I'm going to open with WordPad. And right here, under description, installation, here it is. Copy the Photoshop.dll into the files type directory. So this one here tells us effects directory is not the one we want. So let's copy the DLL file, place that in the file types directory. And then the last one I want to show you is this one here. And I'm going to copy the DLL file. You can see that's the DLL file. And put that into the effects directory. And by the way, this is an incorrect installation. I'm doing this to show you what will happen whenever you do something incorrectly, so as to not worry about it. Now let's go ahead and open up paint.net. And this is what happens. Computer's not going to smoke or blow up or anything, so don't worry about it if you do it incorrectly. Basically, this is just saying that you need to use that installer.exe file that came with that download. Go and click on OK. Close this out. I'll tell you what, while we're here, let's go ahead and check out the effects. You see, we've got a couple of added items here from the other plugin that we had installed. Distort, we've got a couple of extra options here. And under adjustments, nothing in here just yet. That's going to happen once we get this other plugin installed properly. But if we come up here to File, go to Open. See, that's our PSD file that was invisible to us a second ago. And not only can we open it up now, but we can also adjust the various layers, and under File, Save As, we are now given the option of saving it as a PSD file. Pretty cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and close out Paint and properly install this guy here. I'm going to just go ahead and delete that. And I'm going to right click on this, run as administrator, and this, both my monitors went dark, and I've got a pop-up box that says, are you sure you want to install this .exe file? Yes. You've got these options to choose from. I'm just going to go ahead and install them all. Start paint.net. No error message. Now under adjustments, we've got all these options that weren't there before. Under effects, I think we've got one additional option in here. I forget now which one it was. But that's it. That's how easy it is to add the additional functionality of these plugins. And these are just a few of the bazillion different plugins that are out there. So have fun and enjoy paint.net. This is going to bring us to the end of this video on finding and installing and using plugins for paint.net. Thanks for watching, and you have a great day. This video is going to walk you through the steps involved in adding some pretty cool effects to your text using the free image creator and editor called paint.net. Now once you've downloaded paint.net from getpaint.net and installed it, go ahead and open up the program. And I've got mine set to automatically create the working area or the image canvas, but if you don't, or if you want a different one, come on up here and click on New, or go to File and click on New. Then make whatever size adjustments you want for your image canvas, but the one that's already here is fine for me. Now we want to create a new layer. Come on over here to the Layers box and click on the Add New Layer in the lower left corner. Come on over to the Toolbox and click on Text, and you can either make the adjustments after you type or before you type to the font style that you're looking for and the font size, and of course the font color too. Matter of fact, speaking of which, I'm going to go ahead and change the primary color, which is what the text is going to show up in, to red. And I want a little thicker font, so I'm going to go with the Arial Black. And I want a larger font, so let's go with 72. Go ahead and click up here in the canvas. And if for some reason you wanted your text to be absolute center, both horizontally and vertically, you can come on up here to Effects. Go to Object Align and select Center Both. There we go. Now my first effect is a drop shadow. Come on up here to Effects, go to Object, and go to Drop Shadow. Now that's not looking very pretty, but I do need to mention though that if you don't have that option available under Effects and Object, then you want to head over to the forum under Paint.net, and then scroll down a little bit till you come to the plugins. Go to the plugin packs and install this plugin right here. Now that we've got to this point, I need to change my drop shadow color from red to more of a blacker color, and that's actually RGB. That's 0 across the board. And you can make some additional adjustments here if you want the blur radius larger or smaller. And frankly, right now it's even across the board, and that's not really a shadow. A shadow is coming at an angle. For example, if the light's over here, then the shadow is going to be over here, like so. So make whatever adjustments you need to fit the bill for your project, but that'll work for me. Now at this point, what I want to do is apply some additional effects, but just to the text, not to anything surrounding it. Like for example, the drop shadow. I want to keep that intact, but maybe I want to add a gradient color to the text or some other effect, but I don't want to mess up the drop shadow that I have. So with the layer 2 selected, as a matter of fact, you can also change the name of this to something a little more descriptive like text layer or whatever you want to call it by double clicking or selecting the properties down here. Come up here and just rename it like so. But make sure that's selected. Come on over here and in the toolbox select the magic wand. You can also use the shortcut key on your keyboard by hitting the letter S as in Sam, and then come over here and hold the shift key down on your keyboard and select anywhere inside of your text here on any text, and it will select all of the letters within your text, but not anything outside of your text. So with this in mind, you are now able to add whatever effect you want just to the text. Like for example, the gradient. Select the blend tool or the gradient tool. Come on up here and select whatever gradient pattern you want. Now let's try the radial, and let's change our secondary color to blue, and let's go ahead and change the primary color to something else. Green. What a horrible combination. But anyway, it'll get the point across. And then somewhere in here we're going to select and then just move out, or with this particular gradient selection, the linear. Come on in here and just move around until you find the one that you want. As you can see, it did not affect anything outside of the text area. And if you do make a mistake anywhere in here, you can come up here to the history box and just come back to wherever it was prior to that mistake you made. Now go ahead and move this text layer down into the background, so we're making this 1 by clicking on the Merge Layer Down button. Come on up here to the rectangle selection tool, and we want to select the area that we want to crop out or cut out so that we can save just this part of our image and not the whole thing. Be sure though that you're not flattening out any of the drop shadow. And then after you've made your selection, come on up here and click on Crop to Selection. Then come on up here to File, Save As. Save it as a PNG if you want to make the background transparent. Otherwise, I usually just go with the JPEG. Give it a name, something other than Untitled. And you can adjust the quality, and for me I usually go with 100% on the quality. That does make for a larger file size, so beware of that. And then click on OK. Come on into where I saved it, open it up, and there it is. And this is the end of the video on adding effects to your text using Paint.net. Thanks for watching, and you have a great day.